Good morning, everybody. We apologize for the delay in starting this webinar. Welcome to the webinar Creating Mobile Workforce Using Cloud Computing Technology. My name is Sakina Vora and I'm the Events Officer here at Connecting Up. Our speaker today on behalf of Gordon 10 is Tony Nissen, who is the Virtual CIO at RNG Technologies. So before I hand it over to Tony, just wanted to go through some housekeeping notes. To those who are new, please feel free to type in your questions in the question box, and Tony will be happy to address them as he goes through the presentation. Also, if you're facing any technical issues, like if you're unable to see the slides or facing any audio issues, please let us know as well, and we will get it sorted out for you. This presentation is being recorded, so everybody present will receive an email with a link to the recording and slides by end of day today. So without further ado, I'll pass it on to Tony.
Thanks, Sakina. Hi, everyone. Thank you for attending today's webinar. As Sakina said, my name's Tony Nissen. I'm the Virtual CEO at RNG Technologies. My role is to work with our existing clients to help them with their technology planning and strategy. And I'm here today on behalf of Gordon, who unfortunately has been held up at a prior engagement, to present to you his presentation on the mobility revolution for not-for-profits. So look, please forgive me if I do muddle my way through the slides a bit. I've only just seen the presentation a couple of minutes ago, but I will do my best to get through the content and answer your questions as we go. So before we start off, just a little bit about RNG Technologies. In short, we're an ICT services and consulting firm who's based in Queensland. We've been around for about 10, 11 years now, and we're currently servicing a number of not-for-profit organisations all over Australia. So everywhere from New South Wales, Victoria, WA, NT, and South Australia as well. We've been working quite closely with Connecting Up now for a couple of years, predominantly doing their Connecting Up or the Connecting Up events they've been holding on the Gold Coast, but also been doing a number of educational webinars and series, including the Technology Leadership Academy, which is co-hosted with also presented by John Kenyon. So moving on, to start off with. This is a really interesting photo, and it's going to help make a point about mobility as we move on. So this photo was taken back in 2005. I believe it's at the Vatican when they announced the Pope, and this next photo was taken at the same event in 2013. And there's, as you can see from this, there's definitely no doubt that mobile devices have definitely infiltrated our lives, not only at a business level as well, but also at a personal level. Pretty much everyone has a smartphone and everyone has a tablet these days, and they use it for anything and they use it for everything as well. Pulling it back to a business point of view, there was a Gartner report that was done recently just to kind of demonstrate how the trends have been changing with the devices that people obviously purchasing and using in business environments. And as you can see, the trend for PCs has pretty much remained relatively even over the years. But if you look at the smartphones and the tablets in regards to the number of devices which have been shipped, it's steadily increasing. And look, this is definitely expected to keep increasing as time goes on, especially if in the business environment. So the reason that we feel mobility and this kind of technology is important, especially for not-for-profits, there's a couple of things we tie it back to. So first of all, obviously, as a not-for-profit organisation, the majority of you are most likely going to be affected with the changes which are coming in 2016 with the NDIS and individualized funding, and it's really changing the landscape for organisations like yourself, in the sense that it's not just about providing a service. It's going to be about in the future how to provide that service more efficiently, how to keep your clients satisfied, and how to really figure out a way to separate yourself and kind of define yourself from essentially what, unfortunately, which will be competitors. And it's really going to be about leveraging technology in a way to help give you that kind of competitive advantage or give you that point of difference when you're servicing your clients or going out and you know, working within the community. So the mobility and how this can assist, and obviously, you know, it has some cost benefits from a device point of view, but also from a functionality point of view, and the way that you know you can use technology to give your staff to work. You know, adopting platforms within your organization which support and promote mobility essentially going to allow your staff to have that flexibility to be able to access their documents and access their applications regardless of the location they're working from, whether it's at home, if they're out in the field at a client site, or if they're working across multiple offices. You know, having this technology
Hello, Tony.
going forth and doing what you need to do in the community. But I think too, one of the important things that I've personally seen anyway when it comes to technology and introducing it into any business is that if you give staff the tools that make their job easier or make their job more interesting, or being able to give them different ways to kind of get their jobs done, I think, and I've seen from over the last couple of years anyway, especially working with a number of not-for-profit organizations, that, you know, definitely the organizations which have embraced technology and embraced the new technologies which are in the market have definitely increased their staff retention and staff satisfaction, especially with you know, pretty much a lot of the workforce which is coming through now is all, not all, but a lot of them is, you know, from people from the younger generation who kind of are very drawn to this kind of mobile technology, and it's very embedded in their everyday lives. So, you know, I really think that you know, introducing that in that sense, and you know, having those platforms within your organization will actually help to increase your staff retention. Obviously, the you know, people's satisfaction within working and obviously conducting the roles they need to conduct within the organization as well. So there's two ways to really drive mobility from a technology point of view, and I just wanted to touch on them briefly to give you an overview of what your options are, or what the two most common options are. And the first one is infrastructure as a service, and the second one we're going to talk today about is software as a service. Now, for anyone who's not familiar with the terms, infrastructure as a service is basically the practice of renting virtual servers that reside in a data center. So they're, you know, it's pretty much the same traditional server environment that you're used to in your office, but instead of actually physically owning the hardware and living in your office, you rent access to these virtual server resources which live in a data center, you know, maybe in Australia or maybe offshore, depending on the provider that you engage to deliver the service. So with infrastructure as a service, it really gives you the ability to maintain that traditional centralized remote desktop environment. You know, so much the sense that, you know, with this kind of deployment, you're actually able to, you know, pretty much pick up what you have and transfer that across to a cloud mobility. So this can include your existing software applications, your existing file structures or folder structures that you may use within your environment as well. It looks like this slide hasn't been updated, but as you're aware, Connecting Up have actually just recently released their not-for-profit infrastructure as a service solution, which is fantastic because it gives organizations like yourself cost-effective access, or the ability to, you know, access the environment at a cost, you know, at a pretty significant discount when compared to the market rate or the average recommended retail price in some of these services as well. Now, obviously, what moving to this model does is, as I said, obviously it gives you that mobility side of things, but you still do have actual servers, and this is probably where the key difference between infrastructure as a service and software as a service is, in the fact that, you know, yes, you have this cloud environment that lives off-site, but you still it's still maintained and still underpinned by a server environment, which does actually need maintenance and monitoring and patching and so on, and potentially you may have to have either your internal IT resource or your external IT partner to continue to provide support for that. And this is probably one of the key points of difference between infrastructure as a service and the next one we're going to talk about, which is software as a service. So software as a service, it's a similar approach in the sense where, you know, you're moving your data and your applications to a server environment which is stored, you know, in a data center and potentially in Australia or overseas. But where it differs is you're not actually given a complete server environment, like a traditional server environment, to install your applications or to house your data in. So a lot of these providers will actually give you web-based or browser-based tools to fill in for these functions. So a really good example of this is the Google Apps product or the Office 365 product. You know, for example, with Google Apps for your email, instead of having an email server, they give you access to the Gmail service, which they provide via a web browser. Instead of having a traditional file server, they give you access to a platform called Google Drive, which is essentially very similar to, you know, Dropbox or Box.com or OneDrive, if you're familiar with the Microsoft alternative. And it's basically just a file storage repository that you can access via a web browser, or you can synchronize down to your local desktop. And it emulates that function of putting everything in the cloud and gives you that mobility, but it removes the need to actually have a complete server environment, so thus removing the need for things like maintenance on servers, support, and upgrades as well. So look, it is a different model of doing things, and it's definitely a pretty cost-effective solution these days, thanks to the work that Connecting Up and obviously Microsoft and Google have been doing with bringing their donation and discount products to market as well. There are definitely limitations to it in regards to the sense that one thing that the software as a service offering can't do for you is obviously give you a platform to install your server-based applications. So if you're running a traditional CRM or client management system, or if you're running a traditional accounting package which requires a server environment to run, unfortunately software as a service solutions don't actually give you the ability to transfer them to the cloud environment. And you know, that's probably one of the core reasons we've seen a lot of businesses and organizations over the last couple of years actually go down the path of adopting a hybrid cloud approach, so using a combination of software as a service solutions as well as infrastructure as a service solutions to house their legacy applications, which they may not be able to move away from at this particular point in time. So driving mobility with software as a service and infrastructure as a service, there's really 5 key functional areas you need to address. So obviously your productivity suite, which is your Office suite, so you know your word processor, Excel, you know, PowerPoint, and so on, etc. Your file storage capacity, so whether you're going to have a traditional file server in the cloud or you're going to use Google Drive or SharePoint, which is the Microsoft Office 365 intranet / document management system. You know, how are you going to handle your core business applications? You know, that we spoke about that traditional CRM or finance package before, and you know, are you in a situation where you need to hold on to that package, or you can't move away to that package and you may have to transition that to a hosted server environment? Or are you in a situation where you could potentially migrate to a software as a service replacement solution? So for example, you may be able to migrate to Salesforce, or you may be able to migrate to Xero to kind of offset the need to transition your existing or your legacy server applications to a hosted server environment. The other two things you need to be mindful of is obviously the endpoints that your staff are going to be working from. So looking at how they're going to access the environment, whether it's going to be from a traditional laptop or desktop, or are you in a position where you can actually deploy tablet devices and smartphones to support the platforms or these new types of technology that you're looking to implement as well. And last but not least is obviously you really do want to concentrate on whatever the solution is you come up with kind of unifying it and pulling it all together and making it accessible in a way that people understand how to use it and where things are obviously located as well. It's very important from a return on investment point of view. So just to delve deeper into these points, which I think I've already covered, so we'll move through these slides quickly. So the productivity suite and the file storage stuff. So obviously we spoke about Office 365 giving you the options of SharePoint for your document management, Exchange for your email and calendars, and Lync for your unified communication stuff. But you've also got the alternative of the Google Apps Suite as well. So we spoke about Gmail and Google Drive. The great thing about a lot of these products now is Microsoft, with the latest versions of the Windows operating system, actually building in integrations between these platforms and making it easier for these platforms to be more accessible from a traditional desktop environment, which is fantastic. The other point Gordon's got on the screen, which we'll quickly touch on, is obviously SharePoint, apart from being an intranet, also does double as your file server. So taking your existing folder structures and putting them in a web browser so people can access them on the road from a tablet device straight through the web browser as well, which is a really useful thing when we're trying to obviously achieve that mobility. So the core business applications, just to recap on some of them, we spoke about obviously CRM and accounting packages. Some of the other cloud-based alternatives Gordon's got on the screen here is things like, from a CRM point of view, there's some really good cloud products in the Aptify space. There's a company who do some products for actually specifically targeted not-for-profits, and some of you might actually be using these at the moment. For donor management or financial planning, which is the Blackbaud product. Obviously, you've got the Microsoft CRM and the Salesforce product, which we spoke about as well. From an email marketing point of view, your cloud-based options are obviously things like Mailchimp or Constant Contact. Your accounting, your cloud-based alternatives are things like Xero, MYOB Online. And I do actually believe the guys at Quicken have actually re-released their cloud alternative as well. From a budgeting and Cashflow product, there's an organization called Calxa who have a really good product, which some of you may or may not already be using, and it is possible to actually host that product within an infrastructure as a service environment as well. So devices to access the cloud environment from, or the cloud platforms from, obviously we spoke about laptops and tablets, but you can actually use a lot of the newer devices which have come out in recent time as well. So things like the Microsoft Surface Pro, which is Microsoft's alternative to the iPad, and this is actually a device that I use myself personally and have used probably for the last 12 months, and I use it alongside SharePoint. And it is my primary device. I use this as my full desktop, I use it as a laptop, and I use it as a tablet, obviously, when I'm traveling around as well. And that type of form factor and the way that the Microsoft product works directly with SharePoint, as an example, has really given me that ability to have quick and easy access to my documentation, regardless of where I'm working, whether it be in a hotel or if I'm on a client site or even on a plane. Thanks to the offline synchronization technology which you get through the OneDrive product and SharePoint, I'm able to have offline access to my documents, which are essentially stored in that cloud environment as well. So unifying the experience. How will you ensure that the cohesiveness of your organization is not broken if everyone is mobile? Right. Look, so this is really important. if you're going to be moving your platforms and your technologies to a cloud environment, and if you are going to be in a situation where you're going to leverage different cloud platforms and people are going to be working from different locations, a really good way of kind of tying this together is introducing or kind of being mindful of a standardization method called SOE, or standardized operating environment. So if looks like Gordon's just got into the office. So if you are in a situation where your staff are going to be using a Windows-based devices to access the cloud environment from, so whether it's a laptop or a Surface device, it is possible to actually roll out what's called a standardized operating environment and actually give them direct access to all your different cloud platforms from one easy kind of icon or one tab on the desktop as well. So what a lot of guys I've seen do in the past is they'll have shortcut icons on their desktop which are automatically pushed out to all their staff via this standardized operating environment. So when you sit down to do the training, you can say, right, here's the icon for your mail, here's your icon for our cloud-based CRM, here's your icon for the cloud-based accounting package, and so on. Another really great way to kind of allow people to continue to communicate effectively when they're in this environment is obviously introducing the messaging platforms and the Unify communication applications which are out there as well, so such as Google Hangouts or Microsoft Lync, and encouraging your team, encouraging your staff to obviously communicate, interact across that as well, especially if they have any challenges with any of the new cloud-based platforms that you may be using. It's we've found anyway over the last few years, especially with the rise of 365 and Google Apps, is actually providing staff access to these instant messaging platforms or help them further adopt the technologies and further kind of work their way through some of these technologies in the event they have a challenge or have a question about it. They'll actually use this to communicate with other fellow staff members to kind of gain their knowledge as well, or get their advice or direction on how to kind of continue to use it or how to overcome the challenge that they're facing. So a typical mobility strategy, as we mentioned before, it can include a multitude of different cloud platforms. So whether you want to use the Office 365 suite for your productivity stuff, so your Word, Excel, email, and file storage, or whether you want to mix that up and introduce the Google Apps set of tools as well. A really popular one, especially with not-for-profits from a core business or a CRM point of view, is the Microsoft CRM solution, which is obviously now available through connecting up if you want to purchase the licensing outright and host it on your own cloud server environment, or you can even get it now in a software-as-a-service fashion where Microsoft hosts it for you, you pay a per-user per-month fee, and they maintain the environment for you as well. Devices, as we just went through things like Microsoft Surfaces, iPads, laptops, and unifying the experience with a standard operating environment and kind of tying it together with technologies which will allow your staff to engage each other. So things like Microsoft Lync, Google Hangouts, or SharePoint, or Yammer, which is the social media platform which is built into SharePoint as well. So just the last thing we wanted to touch on before we get to some questions today is we do have a case study which we conducted on one of our existing clients here in Queensland by the name of Xero Children's Support Network. Now Xero specialise in disability services and helping families with children who have either physical or intellectual disabilities, and their particular operation, they have multiple offices, and when we met them, they had multiple different systems as well. So here's a quick snapshot of their business system map when we first came in, and as you can see, there was quite a lot of different moving parts, and we went through quite an extensive process of review and working with them on how we could best consolidate the amount of applications they had, or amount of different touch points they had within their organization, but also to promote mobility for them moving forward, because one of the key challenges they were having is that their caseworkers were going out into the community or into the family homes and needing to obviously keep records of the work they were doing or update case notes, and the current systems and platforms they had in place, because they were so very dispersed and weren't really designed with mobility in mind, a lot of their caseworkers were actually recording notes manually on bits of paper or in a notepad, and then having to come back into the office to re-enter them into the system as well. So there was a lot of double handling, and definitely a lot of lost productivity because of that as well. So after going through a process of review, we helped them identify what their requirements were, and we actually went to help them take their requirements to market to actually look at some of the different providers of different solutions that are out in the market that would be able to kind of deliver on what their requirements were from an operational point of view, but also to kind of help them embrace that mobility approach as well. So after going through that tender process, the decision was made to actually, due to the fact there was not one, they couldn't find a particular product that really ticked all the boxes for them. So they actually went through the process of having a software package custom developed and actually have it written in a web-based format as well. So it could be accessed from a web browser, from a laptop, from a desktop, or or even out in the field, from a smartphone as well. So they went through this process, and they ended up going with a custom development project, which is now known as the Ops system, and they've even recently integrated their timesheets into this, so being able to give their staff the ability to log their time or enter their timesheets on the road directly from the Ops system as well. The other technologies that we implemented for Xero after going through the review is we did roll out a SharePoint implementation for them, and there was two key drivers behind this. So firstly, it was from an intranet point of view and kind of a collaboration point of view, so giving them a central point where staff could go to get updates from the management team, to go to get procedural documentation, templates, look at leave calendars and stuff like that as well. But we also transitioned a lot of their files and documents to SharePoint from the document management side of things, so giving their staff the ability to continue to leverage the mobile technology that the mobile technology that they've invested in to work with documents and folders and files while they're on the road as well. The other thing we implemented for Xero was Microsoft Lync. So for anyone who hasn't seen Microsoft Lync before, it's basically Microsoft's version of Skype for Business. And it's funny, I should actually phrase it like that. For anyone who doesn't know, Microsoft actually acquired Skype about 12 or 15 months ago, and they're actually planning to re-release the Microsoft Lync product as Skype for Business in I think it's 2015. And essentially what it does, it ties in with your SharePoint and your Exchange email system, and it gives you the ability to not only see when people are online or if they're busy, if they're away from the desk, if they're in a call, but you can actually interact with each other directly from this menu, from a simple couple of clicks. So whether you want to do an instant message, to do that link-to-link call, if you want to screen share, it kind of ties all those functionalities together in a nice little package, and it's obviously accessible from a tablet device as well, which is fantastic if you have people who do travel with these devices within your organization. So what are the costs of achieving or moving to some of these platforms? What we've seen anyway over the last couple of years is that depending on what your technical requirements are, infrastructure as a service can generally be more expensive than the software as a service approach when you look at it from a total cost of ownership. Small organizations, we definitely found once again, from a cost point of view, have had a more positive experience with leveraging software as a service platforms like Google Apps or the 365 environment. It's more so the larger organizations which have complex applications or quite large legacy applications which are actually driven or actually require that kind of traditional server environment, which they're the ones that need to kind of leverage the infrastructure as a service environment. And especially if you're in a larger capacity, it does, to be honest, it does most of the time end up costing a little bit more from a total cost of ownership point of view. As we mentioned, obviously, if you are in a position when you can make a complete transition to the software as a service platforms, thanks to Connecting Up and Microsoft and Google, you can now leverage these platforms at charity pricings via the Connecting Up donor program. So considerations and tips for adopting mobility. Obviously, planning is very important. We definitely encourage you to take the time to understand not only what your operational requirements are, but to understand what your technical requirements are as well. So sit down and discuss with whether it's your internal IT resource or your external IT partner, discuss with them what are the key areas or the key success factors of what you're trying to achieve by going through this particular process. Is it for mobility just for your documents? Are you looking at moving your applications to the cloud so the staff can actually access them as well? Talk to your IT resource about the delivery model and how you're going to handle things like security and points of access. So are you going to need to adopt mobile device management, or MDM, to manage your device fleet moving forward? Are you going to approach it from a BYOD, or bring your own device capacity, where it's a policy which some organizations put in that actually allow or they actually enforce that their staff provide their own device or bring their own device into the work environment to access their cloud-based tools. And from a cost point of view from the organisation, that can be quite beneficial, but it does have its risks as well. So they can be offset with things like mobile device management, but it's definitely a conversation you should have with your IT resource just to understand what the risks and the benefits are as well. Obviously, with moving to the cloud and adopting these cloud systems, your internet becomes pretty important, as it's generally your lifeline to these platforms wherever you are. So you really want to talk to your IT resource about what they feel your requirements are from a speed and capacity point of view, and if they identify that your current connection isn't suitable for the number of users that you have, you definitely want to evaluate what types of technology are available to you, and obviously what the cost of upgrading to those types of technology may be. So, to give you an example of that, there was one organization who we were consulting with who were based in a regional area, and they were in a really good position from a document and an application, and also a usability case study point of view for the cloud, but unfortunately, when we went through and evaluated what their options for internet connectivity was at their head office, the cost to deliver the right type of internet connectivity was actually it was ridiculous. It was quite large, and unfortunately for this particular organisation, it kind of threw quite a large spanner in the works, so it just wasn't viable, or it just wasn't achievable, and it definitely was required moving forward to support those cloud-based technologies. So, you definitely want to evaluate and identify these particular hurdles around internet connectivity before committing to any cloud-based platform as well. So in conclusion, mobility is, unfortunately, it isn't a fad or a nice to have, and I draw back to that picture that we saw earlier in the webinar, with the kind of example of how the devices that have infiltrated our everyday life, and moving forward as technology progresses, technology is going to continue to become more driven towards these mobile devices and being more accessed via a tablet or via a smartphone. And people's expectations, especially with the younger workforce as they come through, it's going to be something that they're going to be expecting to be made available to them as well. So, I definitely feel that if you are in a position where you need to evaluate your technology strategy, or if you're in a position where you potentially are at a bit of a crossroad and you're looking to kind of evaluate whether you should update your current server environment, move to the cloud, I would definitely take mobility into consideration and just look at it from a point of view as, potentially if we are going to make an investment in technology, should we be investing in technologies which are going to future-proof us or give us the ability to adopt mobility into our organization in the future. Rightio, so forgive me for slipping through the last couple of slides. I thought I've fumbled through enough, and would probably like to open up the floor now to some Q&A. So if you do have any questions or comments about the content that we've just run through, please feel free to type them into the question box or raise your hand, and we'll get Sakina to read them out or unmute you so we can have a chat.
Thank you, Tony. Yes, as Tony mentioned, please let us know if you have any questions. We do have a lot of time, and Tony will be happy to address them. Tony, it doesn't seem like we have any questions at the moment.
No, that's all right. Look, thank you everyone for joining us for the webinar today. Apologies for fumbling through the content, and hopefully you're able to take some interesting takeaways from this today. And if you, as I mentioned before, if you are in a position where you are evaluating your cloud technologies or evaluating technologies to adopt into your organization, I do definitely recommend leveraging the content which can be found on the Connecting Up website in regards to the webinar series and the blog posts that they have about the different kind of cloud-based technologies which are available to not-for-profits, and there's some really good information online as well. So I do encourage you to use that resource as much as possible. If you do have any additional questions or would like to discuss from a technical point of view what some of the challenges may be, or what some of your concerns are, please feel free to reach out to RNG Technologies, either myself, Gordon, or the sales team here. We are more than happy to take your questions and give you the guidance around the technology you may be looking to adopt. Thank you, Sakina. I'll hand it back to you for now.
Thanks, Tony. We did have a series of webinars on Office 365 earlier this year. I'll make sure to include the link of the webinars that we had. So if you have any questions, please feel free to email me at events@connectingup.org. I'll include that email as well in my follow-up email. So until next time, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Tony, once again, and bye-bye.
Thank you.